Hello and welcome to this lesson on expressing numbers as a fraction or percentage, but this time with a calculator. So pop today's date and title and have a go at the do now question before resuming playing when you want to mark your answers. So the do now task, express the following as percentages without using a calculator. So in the last lesson we looked at making the denominator 100 by multiplying, or in some cases dividing, and doing the same to the numerator. So for the first one, 9/50ths, we would double the denominator to get it out of 100, so we also double the numerator. So this would give us 18%. So for 3/10ths, we would multiply the denominator by 10. So we do the same to the numerator to give us 30%. So to get from 5 to 100, we would multiply by 20. So this would give us 80%. For 25ths, we'd multiply by 4 to give us 48%. 3/4, hopefully you know anyway, is 75%, but multiplying by 25 would also give us this result. Just flitting through the rest of the answers then. So for F, 90%, G, 72%, H, 65%, I, 20%, J, 15%, K, 96%, L, 70%, M, 85%, N, 130%. Now because the numerator is bigger than the denominator, so in this case we've got a top heavy or improper fraction. Remember, this gives us a percentage greater than 100%. On the next one, to get 100 we've got to divide by 2, so we have to divide the numerator by 2 to give us 92%, and here we'd have to divide by 3 to get 100, so on this one we'd get 13%. Our hook question for today looks very similar to the question from yesterday. So how is this question different to last lesson? Pause it while you have a think. So it's different because we've got different numbers of goals scored today and different number of games played. And what you should notice is that the games played are not factors of 100 this time, or remember we also had 40 yesterday. These numbers here are more difficult to be able to get as a fraction over 100, which is why in today's lesson we'll be looking at expressing numbers as a fraction or percentage, but we will have to use our calculator. So our success criteria for today is our bronze objective is to use a calculator to convert a fraction to a decimal. Our silver is to be able to express simple fractions as a percentage, and then as our gold objective we'll look at more complex fractions. A cold call question, if you pause the video, give yourself 30 seconds to think about this question. Why might we need a calculator to calculate the percentage of a test mark out of 30, but not for a mark out of 50? Well, if you remember for last lesson, a mark out of 50 is easy because we can get it as a percentage over 100 by doubling. But for a mark out of 30, there isn't a whole number that we can multiply 30 by to get us to 100, so this is more difficult. Let's have a look at a question then. Express 22 out of 30 as a percentage. So just like last lesson, we will write it as a fraction, but this time we're going to input it into our calculator using this fraction key here. Now if your calculator hasn't got a fraction key, on some calculators it's an A with a B over C, or you could actually just input this by typing in 22 divided by 30 and then pressing the equals key. But if you have got this fraction button, it will be much better to use this. So this is what it would look like when you've used the fraction key, but then to get as a percentage we would multiply by 100. So this gives you 73.33333, and what we will do is we will round to the nearest integer. Remember, an integer is the nearest whole number. If you hadn't got a fraction key, remember if you just type in 22 divided by 30, press your equals key, you should get out the 73.333 and so on. you will get out 0.73333, multiply this by 100 and then you'll get the final answer. Remember, when you're rounding, because the 3 after the decimal point is less than 5, we round back to the 73, so it's 73 to the nearest integer. Can you have a go at these questions here then? Pause the video while you have a go and then resume playing when you want to mark your work. So the first question, express 18 out of 62 as a percentage. So put in 18 over 62 either with your fraction button or typing in 18 divided by 62 equals. Then you must remember to multiply by 100 and hopefully get out 29% to the nearest integer. If I just check that, so 18 divided by 62, or 18 over 62 using your fraction button, multiply by 100, you actually get out 29.03225.806. But as the first decimal place is a 0, to the nearest integer, it will be 29. So for the following, hopefully you got 34% for the next one, 46% for the next one. The next question asks you for Whitney, Dora, Rosie and Annie, convert the marks to percentages. Why are some of the percentages integers and others not? So for the first one then, 58 divided by 80, so 58 divided by 80, and if you multiply it by 100 gives you 72.5%. 48 out of 80. So this cancels down to 3/5 as a fraction. So if we cancel this down, we know this is 3/5, and then this will multiply by 20. So this is why this is an integer. This one isn't, because I can't cancel this down easily to get a factor, to get a denominator of 100. So 53 over 80, again, this won't cancel down, so this gives me 66.25%. 56 over 80, this will cancel down. If you use your fraction key and press equals, it should give you 7/10, which will then multiply by 10 to give us 70%. Cold call question now. If you pause your video and have 60 seconds to think before looking at the answer. So in a local election, 1,389 out of 6,000 residents vote. Jack is working out the percentage of the village that voted. So he quite rightly writes 1,389 over 6,000 as a fraction. Now, if you put this as a fraction into your calculator, using the fraction key, this cancels down to 463 over 2,000. Then if you press the S to D key, you get 0.2315, so this is correct. He says this is then 23.15. If we then multiply this by 100, this is in fact correct. It's his rounding that's now incorrect. He says 15 is more than 5, so that's 24, so he rounds it up. But no, this is not how we round. Remember, we just look at the number in the first decimal place value. This is a 1. We ignore the 5. The 1 tells us to round back, so to the nearest whole number, it should have been 23%. Some standard examples then now. Can you have a go at this question here? Pause the video while you have a go and then resume playing when you want to mark your work. So the attendance of 3 classes one Friday was, so class X had 3 people missing out of 29, class Y had 4 people missing out of 31, and class Z had 2 people missing out of 30. It asks you to work out the percentage attendance of each class, giving your answers to the nearest whole percent, so the nearest integer. Which class had the highest percentage attendance? So first of all then, we need to write out as a fraction the percentage attendance. So 3 people missing out of 29 would mean 26 were attending. So the attendance would be 26 out of 29. Type this into your calculator, multiply it by 100. So 26 out of 29, use your fraction key. times it by 100. So in my calculator, I get 89.655. The 6 after the decimal place tells me to round it to 90%. For class Y, 4 people are missing, so this means that 27 are present. 27 out of the 31 are in attendance. If I type this into my calculator using the fraction key, I press my S to D key and I multiply by 100, I get 87.09. The 0 is what we look for after the decimal place, so this rounds back and stays as 87%. For class Z, 2 people are missing. That means 28 out of the 30 are attending. So typing this into my calculator, timesing it by 100 gives me 93.333, so 93.3 recurring. The 3, when I'm rounding, tells me to round back down, so this will be 93%. So which class had the highest attendance? It was class Z. Some non-standard examples. Is it possible to work out 70 as a percentage of 65? Well, yes, it is. Remember, in the lesson when we were not using our calculator, it is possible. So let's look at a question. So let's look at how we'd answer this particular one. So 70 over 65, we just put the bigger number, the first number still as the numerator. We just get an answer bigger than 1 this time. Remember, if we multiply this by 100, it gives 107.692308. So 107.6, the 6 would tell us to round up to 108. So to the nearest integer, this would be 108%. It's bigger than 100% because the first number is bigger than the second number. Pause the video now while you have a go at these questions. Resume playing when you want to mark your work. So 40 is a percentage of 20. Remember, write as a fraction in your calculator. Times by 100. To be honest, you could have done this without a calculator, because remember, when we do this one, we times by 5. So this is 200%. Again, this one we could easily do without our calculator. 68 is a percentage of 20. Times it by 5 to give us 340%. 74 is a percentage of 40. Type it into your calculator, 74 over 40. Times it by 100 to give you 185%. So 263% for your next answer. 133% for your next answer. Some of these you would have had as decimals, just round them to the nearest integer. If you've got them as decimals, that's entirely fine. Last one, Rachel scores 32 in a test and Gareth scores 28. Express Rachel's score as a percentage of Gareth's. So Rachel's score is first, so type in your calculator, in your fraction key, 32 over 28. It actually gives you 1.142857, so it gives you a decimal, but if you multiply this by 100 to the nearest integer, 114.28, the 2 would tell us to keep it as 114%. At this point, you could have a go at the worksheet that's related, or you could have a go at the true-false questions first. So, representing numbers in a fraction implies a division calculation. True, yes it does. Remember, if you haven't got the fraction key on your calculator, you can use the division. To convert a decimal to a percentage, we divide by 100. This is false. Remember, we multiply by 100. Expressing 56 as a percentage of 65 gives 86% to the nearest integer. This is true. Putting 56 over 65 using the fraction key, or 56 divided by 65 equals, then multiplying by 100 gives us 86.15, which is 86% to the nearest integer. Expressing 65 as a percentage of 98 gives 67% to the nearest integer. This is false. It actually gives us 66%. Writing 54 as a percentage of 80 gives 67.5%. This is true. It isn't possible to express 76 as a percentage of 55. This is false. Remember, we can express a bigger number as a percentage of another. It will just give us a percentage greater than 100. Expressing 76 as a percentage of 55 gives us 130%. Just checking in my calculator. It's false. It gives us 138% to the nearest integer. We express proportions as percentages so that it is easy to compare them. Yes, this is true. Is this correct? Pause the video while you have a look at this question. So Natalie scores 67 out of 80 in her maths test and 38 out of 45 in her English test. In which subject did she do better? So Natalie scores 67 out of 80. This is correct as a fraction, but if you type this into your calculator, it doesn't come out as 1.19, it comes out as 0.8375. So they've done 80 divided by 67 to get this incorrect here. So this should have been 83.75%. 39 out of 45. Well, this is in fact, oh no, it's not. This comes out as 0.86 recurring. So actually rounded should have been 87%. So this is slightly incorrect too. So she does score better in her English test, but by incorrect working on the sheet. So actually, if this was an exam question, we wouldn't get the mark for saying that she scored better in her English test. Even though she did, it has to be supported by correct working. So where would we use this? Back to our hook question then. So let's work out the percentages of the players. So if we type into our calculator 8 over 23 in the fraction key times by 100, to the nearest integer you should get 35%. For Rio you should get 40%. For Rude you should get 35%. And for Paolo you should get 27%. So in this case the most successful goal player or goal scorer was Rio. Have we fulfilled our success criteria? So can we convert using our calculator a fraction to a decimal? Hopefully you can by using the fraction key and pressing the S to D, or typing the numerator divided by the denominator and equals. You could practice again with these. Can we express simple fractions as percentages? Yes, so from here we need to multiply by 100, so now you could times by 100 to get these as percentages. Can we express more complex fractions? So hopefully we could literally do any by using our calculator, using the fraction key and multiplying by 100.